Hello, welcome to Lecole. I'm Chris Opie and this video is all about endurance. To keep things nice and basic in this video, we're going to be focusing on physical endurance, which is simply put, your body's capability to continue functioning, working against load or resistance before fatiguing with the presence of oxygen. Simple. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the endurance zone is, how and when you should train to improve your endurance, and I will offer you some beneficial extras as well. Scientifically speaking, the endurance training zone is defined as 69 to 83% of your lactate threshold heart rate, and we'll touch on exactly what that is in a separate video. You could also define this as working between 56 and 75% of your functional threshold power. Recently though, there is growing scientific evidence to prove that training in the lower half of these zones is more beneficial. Endurance training is predominantly about improving our body's efficiency or increasing our aerobic capacity, the ability to deliver oxygen and fuel to our working muscles, which sounds really simple, but on a cellular level, what we're trying to achieve is larger mitochondria cells. At this point, I'd like to reassure you that to improve your cycling endurance, you don't need to be spending thousands of hours on a bike each year. Whilst that was perceived to be the only way in the past, fortunately, modern science is on hand to give us a little bit of help. Training for improved endurance is relatively simple. Imagine you have around 10 hours each week which you can dedicate to riding a bike, a fairly reasonable amount of time. Allocate 8 of those 10 hours to improving your endurance by spending time in the predefined endurance training zone that we highlighted earlier. This will help increase the size of your mitochondria cells without fatiguing you too much, meaning that final 20% of training time can be designated to other training zones, more intensity and things like that. When it comes to your total duration of your longest ride, if your goal event is 4 hours, your longest endurance training ride should be 125% of that duration, meaning your longest training ride should be 5 hours if your goal event is 4 hours. These principles are fairly easy to grasp and definitely easy to actually put into practice when out on the bike. Endurance training rides are easily the most social rides. These are the sort of rides that you can go out and ride all day, you can stop at the cafe, you can ride with friends. As long as you don't go too hard for the majority of the ride, keep that 80-20% ratio throughout. The following are great examples of a typical endurance ride. The traditional, old school, long bike ride. Aim for around 3 to 5 or even 6 hours at that predefined zone 2 intensity. Make sure you're well fueled, keep your cadence light, enjoy some company, and off you go. Include one of these once a week and you will notice that your endurance quickly starts to improve. An alternative to this, however, is to ride for a much shorter period of time, but to potentially do this fasted first thing in the morning. For a fasted bike ride, you should aim to start at around 45 minutes and look to build this up to 90. An alternative supplementary ride to this would be to conduct a shorter ride of around 45 to 90 minutes in duration, but in a fasted state. That means first thing in the morning before you've consumed any calories. Sure, you can have a black coffee just to kickstart that fat burning process. Head out the door, ride in zone 2 for 45 minutes. Build up from there, aim to include an extra 15 minutes each week over the course of around 6 weeks. There's no need to exceed the 2-hour mark on a ride like this. At this point, it's advisable to start eating something preferably with a high protein content. And then one final option is to simply increase the length of a few of your other rides. Imagine you have a 60-minute interval session, but you have a day off. Why not include 1, 2, or even 3 hours of easy endurance pedaling at the end of that ride? Make sure you discuss this with a coach or work this into a sensible training plan to ensure that you're not going to be left too tired and fatigued for the other intervals and efforts that you have coming up that week or your goal event at the weekend. When it comes to improving your endurance, there's one really important factor to remember, and that is good endurance will always reward consistent training. So keep chipping away, increase that long ride each week by a few minutes each time, and you will notice that your endurance does start to improve. Don't leave huge gaps in between your long rides, as the benefits will slowly wane in between. Top it up regularly. A good 3, 4, 5 long rides each month will be enough to see endurance improvements. When is a good time to train to improve your endurance performance? Well, there's never really a bad time to improve your endurance, but if we look at the cycling calendar, generally speaking, our goal events will happen in the summer months. If we bear in mind that it takes 16 to 20 weeks to see significant improvements in our endurance performance, work backwards from your goal event by around 16 to 20 weeks. This is the perfect time to start including extra endurance training into your program. I really hope you found these endurance training tips beneficial. The key takeaways from this video should be what exactly happens inside of our bodies when we're training in the endurance zone, the intensity that it happens, and the frequency we should do it. Why don't you share your endurance experiences with us? I'll see you in the next video.